Do you know that there existed a fearsome kingdom in Africa with exceptional military power, sophisticated governance structure, and rich culture, which even taught the Europeans? Well, there was the mighty kingdom of Dahomey in modern-day Benin, which is considered the most powerful in Africa. But why doesn't everyone know about it? What's the unknown story of this kingdom? How was life there, and how did it prosper? What are the hidden facts about this kingdom which make Africans proud today? Welcome to a new episode of Black Afric Diary, a channel where we talk about Black African history, culture, arts, and civilization. It's a place where you will see the real picture of Black Africa, its stories, and the events defining it. In this episode, we will tell you about the hidden story of the mighty kingdom of Dahomey only a few people know about. Let's get started. The Kingdom of Dahomey, strategically positioned in modern-day Benin, was not merely a regional entity. It was a meticulously crafted powerhouse that rose from the ashes of fragmented communities into a commanding force in West Africa from the early 17th century until its fall in 1904 under French colonization. Unlike many kingdoms that relied purely on brute force, Dahomey's rise was driven by a combination of military might, sharp economic strategy, and a complex religious framework. Its centralized administration, aggressive territorial expansion, and strategic engagement in the Atlantic slave trade made Dahomey a formidable power. What defined Dahomey was not just the wealth it amassed, nor the strength of its military, but its masterful integration of voodoo, which became the lifeblood of its governance, shaping every policy and decision. In Dahomey, politics, religion, and war were one, fused into a unified system that allowed the kingdom to dominate West Africa throughout the 18th and 19th centuries. The leadership of visionary kings like Hoegbaja, Agaja, and Gezo marked Dahomey's journey from a small kingdom to a force that influenced the geopolitics of West Africa and the Atlantic world. These rulers didn't just expand borders. They forged an identity that thrived on warfare, spiritual governance, and international commerce. Their ability to read the shifting tides of economic power, particularly with European traders, and their military strategy allowed Dahomey to rise above its rivals and secure a lasting place in history. But how did all that begin? Well, Dahomey's origins are rooted in the Fon people, an ethnic group still prominent in modern-day Benin. The Fon first settled on the Dahomey Plateau, a fertile and elevated region that became the kingdom's heartland. This region provided the ideal base for the Fon people to establish agricultural and trade-based communities. Initially, these communities were small and autonomous, each led by local chiefs, and they relied heavily on farming staple crops like maize, millet, and yams. The plateau's resources, combined with its defensible position, allowed the Fon people to thrive despite the threats posed by neighboring kingdoms. The early Fon society was primarily agrarian, but its proximity to coastal trade routes meant that trade played a critical role in its economy. These small villages traded agricultural products with neighboring regions for essential goods like salt, tools, and textiles. Despite their agricultural success, these communities existed in a politically fragmented landscape, often vulnerable to raids and domination by larger neighboring states such as the Oyo Empire and the Ashanti Kingdom. It was in this environment that the Fon people began to consolidate power, driven by both internal needs for unity and external pressures from rival states. Central to the Fon's consolidation was their spiritual identity, grounded in the practice of Vodun. This spiritual cohesion allowed the Fon people to forge a strong collective identity, one that would later serve as the foundation for the unification of the Fon under the centralized kingdom of Dahomey. This process of unification was not rapid, but it was inevitable as the Fon realized that survival depended on their ability to centralize power and military strength. By the early 1600s, the groundwork for Dahomey's rise as a centralized kingdom was in place. However, the true birth of Dahomey as a centralized and powerful entity came with the reign of King Hoegbaja in 1645. Hoegbaja's rule transformed the Fon people from fragmented communities into a unified and formidable kingdom. His reign marked a key moment in Dahomey's history, as he implemented key political, military, and spiritual strategies that laid the foundation for the kingdom's later dominance. Haweg Badia's most significant achievement was the centralization of power. Before his reign, the Fon people were scattered across small, semi-autonomous communities. Haweg Badia understood that if Dahomey was to survive and thrive in a region dominated by powerful kingdoms like Oyo and Ashanti, it needed a strong, centralized government. He established a bureaucracy that brought local chiefs under his control, creating a hierarchical system that allowed for efficient governance. This bureaucracy oversaw every aspect of the kingdom's affairs, from agriculture to military matters, and was key to managing Dahomey's growing population and expanding territory. But Haweg Badia's vision extended beyond politics. He recognized the importance of spiritual unity in maintaining the kingdom's cohesion. He reinforced the practice of Vodun as the state religion, making it central to Dahomeyan society. Vodun, with its gods, ancestral worship, and nature spirits, was deeply integrated into the kingdom's governance. Haweg Badia positioned himself not just as a political ruler, but as a spiritual leader, with the divine legitimacy to rule. This fusion of religion and governance gave the monarchy immense authority, as the king was seen as the intermediary between the people and the gods. Regular rituals and sacrifices were conducted to ensure the favor of the gods, maintain social order, and guarantee military success. Haweg Badia also understood that Dahomey's security depended on its ability to expand and defend itself from neighboring threats. Under his leadership, the Dahomeyan army became more organized, disciplined, and better equipped. The king initiated military campaigns that expanded the kingdom's territory, bringing new resources. Haweg Badia's reign also saw the flourishing of Dahomey's culture. The royal court in Dahomey became a center for artistic expression, where skilled artisans produced complex wood carvings, metalwork, and textiles that reflected the kingdom's religious and political values. The palace walls were adorned with bas-reliefs depicting the kingdom's military victories, the divine right of kings, and the rituals of Vodun. This cultural sophistication not only reinforced the power of the monarchy, but also created a lasting artistic legacy that would define Dahomey's identity for centuries. Before we continue further, tell us, are you enjoying the video? If yes, please like and share the video and subscribe to our channel to watch more videos on Black Africa. Let's continue now. In the kingdom of Dahomey, Vodun, often called voodoo, wasn't just a religion, it was the heartbeat of society. This belief system governed both the spiritual and material worlds, shaping everything from governance to daily life. The Dahomeyan people believed that their ancestors, gods, and natural forces were intimately involved in the affairs of the kingdom, influencing politics, military decisions, and even agricultural practices. This blend of spiritual and political power was a core element of Dahomey's identity, making Vodun more than just a set of beliefs. It was the foundation of the kingdom's existence. Vodun was a polytheistic religion, with a complex hierarchy of gods, spirits, and ancestors. At the top was Mawulisa, the supreme deity, but the spirits, or Vodun, were more actively involved in daily life. These spirits acted as intermediaries between the physical and spiritual kingdoms and were invoked through rituals, sacrifices, and ceremonies to bring good fortune, ensure military success, or protect the kingdom from harm. The belief that these deities influenced everything from fertility to warfare cemented their role in guiding the destiny of Dahomey. Vodun also played a significant role in Dahomey's political structure. Spiritual leaders, known as Bokonon, acted as key advisors to the king. These priests and priestesses conducted rituals, interpreted the will of the gods through divination, and advised the king on major decisions like military campaigns or the timing of important state events. Ceremonies were elaborate, involving music, dance, and offerings, all designed to honor the gods and ensure the kingdom's prosperity. Vodun's influence extended into Dahomey's legal system as well. Disputes and trials were often settled through spiritual means, with the belief that the gods would guide the decision-makers toward the right verdict. This integration of spiritual practices into governance ensured that Vodun was woven into the very fabric of the kingdom, influencing both political and judicial matters. The kingdom of Dahomey's era of expansion began in earnest under King Agaja in the early 18th century. Agaja led several successful military campaigns, including the conquest of the Kingdom of Alada in 1724. Alada had long been a rival, and its defeat was a significant victory for Dahomey, granting it control over important trade routes that linked the African interior to the coast. This victory positioned Dahomey as a regional power and gave it access to the lucrative coastal trade, particularly European goods like firearms and textiles. Perhaps the most significant conquest during Agaja's reign was the capture of the Kingdom of Whydah in 1727. Whydah was a major player in the Atlantic slave trade, and its acquisition gave Dahomey direct access to European traders. By controlling Whydah, Dahomey secured a central role, enhancing both its wealth and military strength. You should know that Dahomey's military success was built on a highly disciplined and well-organized army. The kingdom maintained a centralized command structure, with the king at the top, ensuring tight control over military operations. Training and discipline were of paramount importance, and Dahomey's soldiers were known for their speed and precision in battle. Military campaigns were swift, and the primary objective was often the capture of prisoners to be sold in the slave trade, which became a cornerstone of Dahomey's economy. However, Dahomey's expansionist ambitions also created tensions with neighboring kingdoms, particularly the powerful Oyo Empire. Oyo viewed Dahomey's rise as a threat to its dominance in the region, and this rivalry led to conflicts that weakened Dahomey's power by the late 18th century. Nevertheless, Dahomey's military might remain a defining feature of the kingdom's history, allowing it to exert influence over a wide area of West Africa for much of its existence. One of the most extraordinary elements of Dahomey's military strength was its all-female fighting force known as the Dahomey Amazons, or Agoji in the Fon language. These elite women warriors played a crucial role in the kingdom's military campaigns, standing shoulder to shoulder with their male counterparts and often leading some of the most critical battles. What made the Dahomey Amazons so unique wasn't just their presence in the military, but the fact that few societies, African or otherwise, boasted such a powerful and specialized female fighting force. The origins of the Dahomey Amazons trace back to their initial role as the king's personal bodyguards. Over time, however, their responsibilities expanded, and they evolved into a fully fledged military regiment. These women were recruited from among the strongest and bravest in the kingdom and underwent rigorous training in the use of weapons like muskets, machetes, and spears, as well as hand-to-hand combat. Their discipline was legendary, and their loyalty to the king and kingdom was unquestioned. Many were willing to fight to the death to defend Dahomey. Beyond being fierce warriors, the Amazons were also symbols of Dahomey's strength and societal unity. They represented a society where women could hold significant political and military power, challenging traditional gender roles in a way that was rare for the time. Their presence in the royal court further emphasized their importance. They weren't just soldiers, but advisors to the king on military strategy, ensuring their influence reached the highest levels of governance. However, by the 19th century, as Dahomey faced increasing threats from European colonizers, the Amazons found themselves in more defensive roles. They fought bravely against the French during multiple campaigns. However, Dahomey wasn't just a kingdom built on military conquest and economic strength. It was also a cultural powerhouse. The royal court in Dahomey, Dahomey's capital, became a dynamic center of artistic expression, where skilled craftsmen created complex works of art that reflected the kingdom's religious beliefs, military victories, and royal authority. Art and culture in Dahomey were deeply tied to the kingdom's religious beliefs. The Vodun religion was central to many of the kingdom's artistic creations, with craftsmen often commissioned to create objects used in religious rituals. Music, dance, and elaborate costumes were also key elements of Vodun ceremonies, blending artistic expression with spiritual devotion. Dahomey's cultural sophistication did not go unnoticed by the outside world. European traders who visited the kingdom were often impressed by the level of artistry and craftsmanship they encountered, and the royal palaces of Dahomey have since been recognized as UNESCO World Heritage Sites, preserving the artistic and cultural legacy of the kingdom for future generations. In the 19th century, as European powers expanded their colonial ambitions in West Africa, Dahomey found itself facing increasing threats, particularly from France. Under the leadership of King Bayhanzin, Dahomey fiercely resisted French efforts to take control of its territory. For Dahomey, the stakes were clear. European colonization represented not just the loss of land, but the destruction of the kingdom's sovereignty and way of life. Dahomey's resistance was both diplomatic and military. Initially, the kingdom sought to negotiate with the French, but as tensions escalated, it became evident that France intended to annex Dahomey by force. The kingdom's military, including the Dahomey Amazons, launched several campaigns against French forces in the 1890s, inflicting heavy casualties and demonstrating their resolve to defend their homeland. Despite their bravery and determination, Dahomey's forces were ultimately outmatched by the French, who had superior firepower and resources. By 1894, after a series of devastating attacks on Dahomey, King Bayhanzin was forced to surrender. Although Dahomey's military resistance could not stop colonization, the kingdom's fierce defense became a symbol of African resistance to European imperialism, leaving a legacy of resilience and pride. The fall of Dahomey came in 1894, when the kingdom was defeated by the French and absorbed into French West Africa. King Bayhanzin was exiled, marking the end of Dahomey's political independence. However, the cultural and historical legacy of the kingdom did not die with its fall. The Fon people, descendants of the Dahomeyans, continued to carry on the traditions and practices of their ancestors, preserving Dahomey's rich cultural heritage. Despite being under colonial rule, many elements of Dahomey's royal structure and spiritual practices persisted. The Vodun religion remained central to the lives of the people, and the royal palaces in Dahomey continued to serve as important cultural symbols. The memory of the Dahomey Amazons, in particular, has endured, celebrated as icons of female strength and empowerment. Today, the cultural and historical impact of the Kingdom of Dahomey is still deeply felt in modern-day Benin. The Fon people, who are direct descendants of the kingdom's original inhabitants, continue to practice Vodun, which remains an essential spiritual tradition in the region. The artistic, musical, and dance traditions that were central to Dahomey's culture have been passed down through generations and continue to thrive in Benin's cultural life. Did you know about the history and power of the mighty Kingdom of Dahomey? Isn't it true that the women warriors of the Dahomey inspired Europeans and other countries around the world to recruit women soldiers? In the comment section right below, share your thoughts on what you like the most about this powerful African kingdom. Do you want to watch more videos like this one? If yes, subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon next to it. We bring videos on Black Africa, its history, rich arts and culture, and things the world should know about. Thanks for watching, and until the next video, stay tuned.